So today, good morning. Today we'll start with a block. And if you don't have a block, I'll give you an option. But if you do, definitely use it. So we'll start in supported bridge. So you'll just want to take your block and you'll either want to use the lowest height, so where it's totally flat and wide, or you could come up to the medium height if you're feeling comfortable in this pose. But I would start with one of those. We're just starting out. It's our first back bend. So come on down onto your back. If you don't have a block, you'll just lay on your back, hips down on the mat, and you can bring the knees together and the feet wide and stay here. And this is a really nice way to open your practice. If you do have a block, feet are hip width distance apart, walk the feet in. So you're trying to line up the heels underneath the knees so they're not ahead of the knees. And then lift the hips up, take that block, slide it underneath the hips. So either lowest height or medium height. And then you just let the hips rest on the block, arms down by the sides. And there's a little bit of a shift of the tailbone going up toward the knees. So you're not trying to find a rounding in the lower back. You got to be careful with the block. You still want to find that lifting and spreading of the chest. So maybe you lift the chest a little bit so you can get the shoulder blades underneath you. Those outer upper arms are pressing into the mat. And that lift and spreading across the chest is what we're trying to stay with. Eyes can be just softly open. So that means the eyelids are covering half of the eyeball, right? So looking down is probably a good idea. Or you can close the eyes if you feel like that'll help you start to center and come into your practice. Then once you have landed, start to take a deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the mouth, nice and slow. Deep breath in through the nose, fill all the way up. Slow breath out through the mouth. One more like that. Deep breath in, fill all the way up, lift and spread the chest. Exhale back out through the mouth, let it go. This time, breathe in through the nose. Keep the lips sealed back out through the nose. Keep going like this, in and out through the nose, feeling the breath move up and down the back of the throat. So as the body's here in this shape, the supported bridge pose, and the only thing that's really moving is the breath throughout the body. You're trying to set that intention to continue on with this breath and making the commitment that every time you lose sight of it, you keep coming back to it. It can be intimidating if we set an intention of staying with it on our entire practice, depending on where we are with our practice. So sometimes it's nice to just think about, you just keep coming back to it every time, building that habit over and over again. So if you're on the lowest height with the block and you're feeling pretty comfortable, you could press into the feet, lift the hips up and go to the medium height. See how that feels. Block still goes in the same spot. You want to be supported with the hips. So the block's touching the hips, not the lower back. Lower back is totally free. Maybe that helps you lift and spread the chest even more. And then reach the arms overhead wherever you are. Clasp opposite elbows, and it can be really loose. So if you're feeling tight in the upper body, you don't even have to clasp opposite elbows. If that's feeling like it's too much, you can just bring the arms out wide. So the hands would be wider than shoulder width distance. Just try to keep the shoulders in place so they're not hiking up toward the ears. And that way your neck has plenty of space. If clasping opposite elbows is working, then stick with that. And you might find a little bit of length in the sides of the torso. And then if you do have the elbows clasped, switch the clasp. So bring the other forearm on top. You'll start to notice that even though you're not moving other than the breath and we're staying in this shape, the body's starting to wake up. You're starting to bring energy in. with this back bend. If the elbows are clasped, reach the arms overhead. You can even take the hands a little wider than shoulder width distance apart so you can feel how that feels in the body. And then bring the arms down by the sides on the exhale. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. If you have a block underneath you, slide the block out from underneath you and set the hips down to the mat. So we're all in the same spot now, with or without the block, whether or not we started with the block. Hips are down on the mat, and you're feeling that difference in height between having the hips up on the block and having the hips down on the mat. Then from here, let's cross the ankles. So hook one foot on top of the other, grab onto the knees and pull the knees apart, and you can bring the knees in toward the chest and rock side to side. So you won't be able to bring the knees in a whole lot because of the way the feet are hooked. And then rocking side to side gives you that nice little massage behind the hips, which can feel really good after that supported bridge pose. And then switch the hooking of the feet, bring the other foot on top, same thing. Keep pulling the knees apart. Knees are still working their way in toward the body, but probably nowhere near as you rock side to side. And you'll set the feet back down onto the mat. Roll over onto your right side. Use the hands to bring yourself up to seated. You can move the block up toward the top of the mat and come to hands and knees. So tabletop position. So once you come to hands and knees, let's take a few rounds of cat-cow breath. Spread the fingers out wide on the inhale. Reach the heart forward. On the exhale, round the whole spine. So keep going on your own. If you're feeling any tenderness in the back, this is a good time to kind of focus on that area. So if it's the center of the back, make sure that that's moving forward and back, and then see if the lower back is stiff, if that's not getting as involved. If you're feeling tenderness in the lower back, you can take it easy with the cat-cows in the lower back area, because maybe it's had a little too much work if it's feeling tender. Last one, forward and back. Take your time with it. Shoulders away from the ears. Then back to your neutral spine. Step the right toes back behind you. Fire up that right leg with the toes down on the mat. So feel the inner thigh and the outer thigh work together. That outer right hip is hugging in. And then you'll start to feel it in the core with the toes down. That's where we are trying to aim all this energy and the stability of the pose. See if you can lift the right heel up just to hip height or lower. Those right toes want to turn out to the right. They need to point down so that inner thigh feels like it's rolling up toward the sky. And then from here, right hand gets a little heavier. Left arm reaches forward like you're going to shake someone's hand. Make sure the left shoulder's in place so it's not reaching forward with you. And then take an inhale. On the exhale, curl elbow to knee, lifting that right foot, scooping the belly. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Hug the belly in to lift that right foot. Inhale, extend. Little different this time. We're bringing it out to the side. Left elbow out to the side, right knee out to the side. Look forward, hug that core in. And then come back to center. Reach the left arm forward, right leg back. Left hand comes down, right knee comes down. Step the left toes back behind you. Keep the toes down so you can start to energize the body. So fire up the left leg, inner thigh, outer hip, and then feel the core turn on. So the whole core should be squeezing in toward the midline. Lift the left leg up just to hip height, not too high. Keep that energy going out through the sole of the left foot. Reach the right arm forward. Get long on the inhale. On the exhale, curl, bring it all in. Elbow to knee, lift the foot. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend. Out to the side, elbow out to the side, knee out to the side. You want to lift the knee and the elbow and then come back to center. Reach that right arm forward, left leg back. Right hand comes down, left knee comes down. You're back in tabletop. Slide forward onto your stomach. So as you come down onto your stomach, tops of the feet are down on the mat. Reach the arms back behind you. Pull those shoulders back so the chest is nice and wide. Tailbone back toward the heels. Belly's lifting away from the mat. Lift and spread the chest. And it's not the biggest back bend. We already started with one. So just find a place where you feel some energy in the backside of the body. And then exhale, release. Bring the hands down in front of the face. You can turn the head to one side or just rest the forehead down on the hands. And then we'll do 2 more of those. So come back to center, reach the arms back behind you, press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest, keeping plenty of space in the neck as you look down the bridge of the nose. Make sure you're not pressing the core into the mat, you're hugging it in. And exhale, let that go, rest, turn the head the other way if you're going side to side. And staying with this warmth and momentum, let's come back into it. Reach the arms back behind you, squeeze those hands together, press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest, tailbone goes back. And exhale, release. Turn the head or rest the head straight down onto the hands. Then one hand at a time, come back up to tabletop, all fours, and we'll take this into child's pose. If child's pose isn't working for you today, you can stay on your stomach just the way we were, and that's a really nice place to be, forehead down. Keep those arms reaching out in front of you if you're in child's pose, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. And knees closer together if the lower back's bothering you at all in child's pose. You can bring them all the way together, and that gives you a little bit more support there. And you'll start to lift the head, come to downward facing dog, shift forward to hands and knees, tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. So first, downward facing dog, find your ritual if you have one, you can get into that. If you're not sure, some movement is a nice thing to do in the first downward facing dog. It's such a big pose. We're still opening up. So keep a bend in the knees if the legs are tight, or pedal out the feet if you want some more movement. And then from downward facing dog, look at the hands, lift that right leg up and back, and right foot's going to step outside of the right hand. So it's a wide lunge, right foot outside of the right hand. You can set that back knee down and untuck the toes. Reach the heart forward, taking the rounding out of the upper back. And then we'll take this into a nice gentle twist. So this right hand comes up to the right thigh and you just open up across the chest. Left hand still down on the mat. Right hand comes back down underneath the shoulder, inside the right foot, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step straight back, downward facing dog. Left leg lifts up and back. Look forward, left foot outside of the left hand. Set that right knee down onto the mat, untuck the toes, reach the heart forward. It's a wide lizard, wide lunge. Getting into the hips. And then left hand, left thigh, open the chest to the left, keeping the spine long, reaching up through the crown of the head. Left hand comes back down underneath the shoulder, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step straight back, downward facing dog. Start to bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's come all the way up. Press down into the feet. Spread the arms out wide. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Hands come together on the exhale, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Stay here, Urdhva Hastasana. So you're pressing down into the soles of the feet. You're lifting up through the chest, but keeping those shoulder blades right in place. So they're not reaching up toward the sky, but the fingertips are reaching up toward the sky. Outer hips hug in, core hugs in. So standing with some connection through the whole entire body, soles of the feet up through the crown of the head. Left arm reaches forward, right arm reaches back. You're coming into a twist, but keep that right hip pointing forward. So it'll stay with the gaze. You can start there, keeping the gaze forward. If you feel pretty good and you can keep that right hip going forward, maybe you start to look to the right or even at that back hand, but still standing tall, even in both legs. Start to bring the gaze forward. If you changed it, reach the arms all the way back up. Urdhva Hastasana, shoulders away from the ears so the neck has space. Right arm reaches forward. Left arm reaches back. Keep that left hip going forward. That's your twist. Hips point forward. It's the upper abdomen chest area that opens to the left. If you're comfortable, you could look to the side or at that back arm. And then you just spread the arms apart as you stand as tall as you can, keeping that left hip forward. Bring the gaze back forward, reach the arms all the way back up. On the exhale, forward fold, arms out to the side, fold all the way down over the legs. And then here, bend the knees so much that you can rest the chest on the thighs. So it's almost like chair pose. Chest is resting on the thighs, head and neck release. You could stay like this with the fingertips on the mat or the hands on the mat. You could also clasp opposite elbows behind the calves if you feel like that's an easy, accessible option. You can nod the head yes a couple of times, no a couple of times. And then if you do have the forearms class, switch them, go the other way. We'll all bring the hands back down to the mat. So the chest is on the thighs. How long can you keep that connection? And maybe play with going straighter on the legs. So it probably won't be that much different. You're trying to keep the chest connected to the thighs and going for straighter legs, and you'll feel a big opening in the back sides of the legs. See if you can shift forward a little bit into the balls of the feet so the heels get lighter. Keep pulling the shoulders toward the hips. And then come into your regular forward fold. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Knees can be up or down. So if you're dealing with any back issues and you want to take some weight off the pose, bring the knees down and then lower all the way down to the mat. Tops of the feet come to the mat, hands back by the lower ribs. Cobra. So tailbone points back. You can lift and spread the chest. Elbows stay bent. Exhale, release, downward facing dog. You can also take hands and knees to get to downward facing dog. And that's a really gentle way to get there. Plank if you want to fire it up. Couple breaths in your downward facing dog. Hug that belly in and lift the tailbone, heels down toward the mat. Shoulders toward the hips. Squeeze those arms together. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back, plank pose, knees up or down, chaturanga, Cobra or up dog. So listen to your back. If you take up dog and you're feeling any tenderness in the back, go back to cobra on the next round. Take it back to downward facing dog. So some of us might have a hard time adjusting our practice if we're used to doing one pose over the other, particularly with down or with up dog versus cobra. Try not to let your ego get in the way. Take care of yourself. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Definitely skip the hopping if you're having any back issues. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms up to standing. Hands come together down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back, plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga, cobra or up dog. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step the right foot forward outside of the right hand. Step the left foot forward outside of the left hand. Yogi squat. So heels can be in, toes can turn out, elbows inside of the knees, and then you lift the chest up as high as you can. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet to hip width distance, and then put a little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, press yourself up to standing. And then inhale, reach the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Root down through the legs, lift up through the chest, hug that core in. And you're trying to stand as tall and as straight as you can. So if someone was looking at you from the side, you'd be one straight line. Hands in line with the feet, head in line with the hips. Tailbone and pubic bone trying to connect with one another. All right, from here, keep reaching up. Start to shift the weight over to the right foot. Can you lift the left foot away from the mat? So you'll want to have a focal point in front of you. The left foot's just hovering away from the mat. And then start to kick that left foot back as far as you can. It's not going to go that far. But you'll start to feel the back side of the left leg turn on. Chest is still lifted. Put a bend in that right knee and keep going to warrior three. So you're standing strongly on that right leg, hugging that outer right hip in, left toes point down toward the mat. You're reaching forward. There's a little bit of a back bend in the upper body. Core hugs in. And we're coming back up to standing. Take your time, go slow with it. See if you can hover the left foot once you get to standing, and then set that foot down, Urdhva Hastasana. On the exhale, forward fold, arms out wide, let the head and the neck go. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, step the left foot back behind you, spin the left heel down flat, warrior two, take your time, open up the arms wide. Head right over the hips, keep some weight in that back leg. And this should feel pretty good, opening up that right hip after that the work we did just before. Flip the front palm, take it to reverse warrior. Try not to get out of that right knee. It wants to come along with you. You're sending it forward so you can reach away from it. Then straighten the front leg, bring the arms out wide to the side. You could heel toe the back foot in a little bit to shorten your stance for triangle. Then reach that right arm forward, right arm comes down, left arm reaches up, Trikonasana. Bring it back up to standing. Keep that front leg straight. So right back to where we just were. Bend the front knee, warrior two. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Vinyasa if you want one, or you could go straight back to downward facing dog. Sometimes it's nice to go to downward facing dog first and then decide, do you want to glide forward to plank pose, lower down, take a back bend, and back to downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up and back. Look forward at the left hand. Step the left foot outside of the left hand. And then right foot outside of the right hand. Yogi squat, malasana, hands together in front of the heart. Lift the chest. And if the heels aren't connecting, you can roll up the mat to fill in that gap, or you can lean forward, keep the heels lifted and the fingertips down the mat, going for that straight long spine. So those are good alternatives to a yogi squat. All of us bring the hands down to the mat, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet, back to hip width distance. Little bend in the knees, bring the hands to the hips, press yourself up to standing. So it's a really nice way, especially for the lower back, to go from a forward fold up to standing. So that's something you can play with if you're ever having any tenderness there. Reach the arms all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. So find that straight line. You're lifting the kneecaps by shrugging up the quads. You're hugging the core in, shoulders away from the ears. Start to find that focal point straight in front of you. Focal point should be eye level. So you don't want to feel like you're looking down or up. That's best for stability. And then you definitely want something that's not going to move. So shift over to the left foot. Lift that right foot. So it feels like you're hugging that right leg up into the hip. Keep the energy in the sole of the right foot. Start to press that right leg back, keeping it straight. It's not going to go back that far, but you'll feel the inner thighs start to work. So those toes on the right foot are still pointing straight forward. You want to keep them pointing down toward the mat as we transition to warrior three. Heart is open and lifted. Start to bend that left knee. Take your time with it. Come forward to warrior three. If it's too much for the arms, you can bring the hands to prayer in front of the chest. We're coming back up to standing, slow and controlled. Maybe the right foot hovers. Once you get back to Urdhva Hastasana, set that right foot down and then arms out wide. Exhale, forward fold all the way down over the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step the right foot back behind you. Spin that right heel down flat. Virabhadrasana 2, warrior 2. Get that left knee right over the left ankle. Make sure you have some weight in the back leg, lifting the chest as you lower the legs, and then flip the left palm, reverse warrior. Keep the left knee where it is. Keep pushing it forward as you reach up and back. And we want to reach more up than back in our reverse warrior. So notice if you're skewing more the other way. Straighten the front leg, come up to standing, arms wide. Option to heel toe the back foot in to shorten your stance for triangle. Reach forward as far as you can. Bring the left arm down, right arm up. And we're trying to get long on both sides of the body, but especially that left side. So you want to get long, you want to find some length from the left hip pulling back and the left underarm reaching forward, but keeping the shoulder away from the ear. Come back to standing, keep that straight leg right back to where we started, and then bend the knee, warrior two. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Stay here or take a vinyasa. Good. So right leg reaches up and back, three-legged down dog. Look forward, right foot outside of the right hand. Wide lizard lunge. You can feel that hip opening here, reaching the chest forward. Now step the left foot outside of the left hand. Find your Malasana yogi squat, any version. And as we come into these, you might feel a little bit more comfortable, so you can start to adjust as needed. Hands come down to the ground, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet, back to hip width distance. Put a little bend in the knees to bring the hands up to the hips, press into the feet to come all the way up to standing. Reach the arms all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. Find that length here. So it's just like Tadasana, but the arms are reaching up, and that helps you give you some length and find that connection in the whole body. Shift the weight over to the right foot, hover the left foot away from the mat. So you're already getting some energy in that left leg. And then kick the left leg back. You're still standing tall here as far as you can, so you can feel the backside of the leg turn on. Core hugs in, little bit of a back bend as you come forward. Virabhadrasana 3, little bend in that right knee, playing with your stability, your balance, your focus and concentration. Remember, you can always bring the hands together like prayer if that's feeling better today. Left toes point down toward the mat. We're taking it back to Urdhva Hastasana as slow and controlled as you can. This is where we build our strength. Left foot hovers over the mat. Reach up as tall as you can. Set that foot down, back to Urdhva Hastasana. Arms out wide, forward fold all the way down to the mat. Left foot steps way back. Spin the left heel down flat, warrior 2 when you're ready. Heel to arch or heel to heel. Flip the front palm, reverse warrior. Keep those legs where they are. Straighten the front leg, bring the arms out wide to the side, setting up for triangle pose. Reach forward, pull the hips back, and then bring the right arm down, left arm up. Squeeze the legs together, hug the core in, come back up to standing. Look forward over the right hand, send that right knee forward, back to Vira 2. Windmill the hands down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog, optional vinyasa. Left leg reaches up and back. Look forward, left foot outside of the left hand. Staying a beat in this wide lunge lizard pose. And you can also skip the yogi squat and stay here side to side. That might be a nice alternative if that's feeling better. Right foot outside of the right hand, yogi squat, malasana, hands together, chest lifted. Energy in those hips. You feel the muscles around the hips supporting the hips, lifting the pelvic floor. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet, hip width distance. Really important for back stuff, any back stuff happening. You definitely want to keep the feet hip width. Hands come to the hips, bend the knees, press yourself up to standing. Reach the arms all the way up. Find Urdhva Hastasana. It's a pose. Feel like you're just as strong in this pose as you are in your warrior 2. Shift the weight over to the left foot, hover the right foot away from the mat. Kick that right leg back, get the energy going in the backside of the right leg. Hug the core in, keep the chest reaching up until you start to reach forward with it, coming into your warrior 3. Trying to keep those hips level. So the right hip wants to be higher than the left, and the left hip wants to swing out to the left. Back to Urdhva Hastasana. Go slow, take your time, hover the right foot once you come back up. Set that foot down, arms out wide on the exhale, forward fold. Right foot steps back, spin the right heel down flat, Virabhadrasana 2, left leg forward. Flip the front palm up, reverse warrior. Straighten the front leg, come up to standing, heel toe the back foot if you have a long stance in your warriors, and take it to triangle pose. And you don't have to shorten your stance for triangle. It's about stability, so you find where you're comfortable. Come back up to standing. So squeeze those legs together. Core hugs in a whole lot. Take it to warrior two. Maybe you lengthen your stance if you shortened it. And hands come down to the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Stay right here or take a vinyasa. All right, let's see how we can change it up this time. Right leg lifts up and back, three-legged down dog. Look forward, right foot outside of the right hand, lizard. Right hand, right thigh, open up across the chest. Back knee can come down or you can keep it lifted. It's a whole lot more energy with it lifted, so see how that goes. Then bring the right hand back down underneath the shoulder. Left foot steps up, yogi squat. Bring the hands in front of you if the heels are touching down. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet to hip width distance, little bend in the knees, hands to the hips, press yourself up to standing. Urdhva Hastasana, reach the arms all the way up. Find your drishti, shift the weight over to the right foot, lift the left foot, start to kick it back. You don't want to go too fast with these. Make sure the hips are still pointing straight forward. Warrior three. Reach the arms forward. And if you're feeling anything in the lower back, definitely bring the hands together in front of the heart. Slowly make your way back up to standing. Hover that left foot as much as you can. Set the left foot down onto the mat. Left arm reaches forward, right arm reaches back. So you're coming back into that standing twist. Hips point forward, chest opens up to the right. Gaze can go with you if you want it to. Maybe at that back right hand. Stand as tall as you can. Bring the gaze back forward. Reach the arms all the way up. Forward fold. Bring the arms out wide. Fold over the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Left foot steps back behind you. Spin that left heel down flat. Vira two. Take your time. Finding your warrior two. Fine tuning it. Flip the front palm up. Reverse warrior. Straighten the front leg, arms out wide to the side, triangle pose. Back up to standing, go slow with that. Make sure it feels good. Send that right knee forward, Virabhadrasana 2. Exhale, hands to the mat, straight back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Stay here or you have time for a vinyasa if you want one. Left leg reaches up and back. Look forward. Step that left foot outside of the left hand. Wide lizard lunge. Stay here. Back knee lifted unless you want it down. Left hand, left thigh. Open up across the chest. Hug the core in. Left hand back down underneath the left foot. Step that right foot forward. A yogi squat, hands together right in front of the heart. Lift the chest, lift up through the crown of the head. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, heel toe the feet, back to hip width distance. Put a bend in the knees, hands to the hips, press into those feet and the legs as you come all the way up to standing. Arms reach up, Urdhva Hastasana. Shift the weight over to the left foot, hover that right foot away from the mat. Move the right foot as far back as you can, staying here. Hug the core in, all the muscles working together, both legs so strong. Warrior 3. Put a little bend in that left knee. Keep that inner right thigh working hard and those right toes pointing down. Chest is still reaching forward. Take your time starting to make your way back to Urdhva Hastasana, hovering that right foot once you get there. Set the right foot down. Find center between both legs, hips pointing forward. Right arm reaches forward. Left arm reaches back. Open up across the chest. Keep the left hip going forward. Maybe the gaze reaches back. Stand as tall as you can. Spread the arms out wider. Bring the gaze back forward. Reach the arms all the way back up. Urdhva Hastasana. And then exhale, arms out wide, fold all the way down over the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, right foot steps back, warrior 2. Bring that right heel down, windmill the arms. Flip the front palm up, reverse warrior. Straighten the front leg, arms out wide to the side. Setting up for Trikonasana, triangle pose. When you're ready, come into it. All the way back up to standing. Make sure the core is hugging in, those legs are squeezing together. Back to warrior 2. Hands down to the mat. Go back to down dog first. Stay there or vinyasa. Glide forward to plank and move through. Couple breaths in dog. And child's pose. Bring the knees down to the mat, big toes together, sit the hips back. Before it comes down, you could bring the arms back behind you. And knees can be all the way together here. Knees and feet can be all the way together, especially if you're feeling anything in the lower back. Then bring the hands to the mat, lift the head, and come to seated. So once you come to seated, we'll play with bridge pose again. So make sure the hips are more toward the center of the mat. You have a block. You could take a supported bridge, especially if you want to, if you're feeling kind of cooked and want to take a break. You can just set the block off to the side and rest the head down onto the mat. So walk the feet in, bring the heels underneath the knees, press into the feet, lift the hips up. So you can either grab the outer edges of the mat, getting those shoulder blades underneath you, lifting and spreading the chest. If your shoulders feel open enough and it provides more space, you could interlace the fingers underneath you. But sometimes our shoulders are so tight that that just doesn't work. So choose whichever option's most available. And then find the pose. So you're digging into those heels, lifting and spreading the chest. It's like those heels are coming in toward the shoulders. So you feel the back sides of the legs again. One more inhale, tailbone up between the knees. And exhale, bring the hips back down. So use that block if you want to. If you are using the block, you can just stay on the block. We're doing 2 more rounds and you can stay there with the block if you want. Press down into the feet, lift the hips up, back into bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana. Lift and spread the chest, press down into the shoulders, and you want to look up, chin away from the chest, so there's plenty of space in the throat. And even though it's possible, we always look up. We never move the head when we're in bridge pose. It is not a good idea for the neck. One more inhale and exhale. Bring the hips back down, rest. Last round, bridge, supported bridge. If you want to take something deeper, you're welcome to. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Find the arm variation that's working best for you. If you have the block, the arms can just rest down by the sides. You don't really have to do anything with them unless something's calling to you. So think about stretching the whole front side of the body, getting that length, and the back side of the body is lifting and spreading the front side of the body. And next exhale, you'll bring the hips back down. If you have a block underneath you, lift the hips up, set the block off to the side. And then from here, let's bring the knees together, feet out wide. That's always a nice way to add some space to the lower back and a nice way to just lie down in general. And we'll bring the feet back to hip width distance. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Keep the left foot on the mat. We're not extending it. Then cross the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Take this into thread the needle. So you're already in it with the left foot down on the mat. You can stay like that. If you want more, bring the legs in, reach through, grab the back of the left thigh or top of the shin if it's right there. Just keep that right foot flexed, the one you can see. And start to set that left foot down to the mat, right foot down to the mat, knees and feet all the way together. Another good opportunity to use the block. You could take this block the skinny way and put it between the knees and thighs. Then you'll scoot the hips over to the right, bring the knees over to the left. So this always gives us more space in the lower back. Right arm reaches out to the right. You can just gaze over that right arm. So coming into our spinal twist. So we know that whenever the knees and feet are hip width distance apart, the lower back has space. So when we're in this twist, we're making that happen with the block. And you'll bring the gaze back up, remove the block, use the feet to get back to center. Just set the block down to the side, hug the left knee in toward the chest, right foot stays on the mat. So you can feel a difference with the hips pressing down into the mat with the right foot down instead of extended. It also gives the lower back a whole lot more space. And we're taking this into thread the needle. Cross the left ankle on top of the right thigh. Keep the right foot where it is or bring it all in toward the body. Left foot flexed. Set the right foot down to the mat, left foot down to the mat. Grab that block if you're using it, put it between the knees, down between the lower thighs and the knees. Scoot the hips over to the left. So that's important to stack the hips and then bring the knees to the right. So left hip should feel like it's right on top of the right hip. Left arm reaches back behind you and you come into your twist. And the gaze will come back up, take the block, set it off to the side, come on down, come on back onto your back. And then from here, let's take happy baby. So bring the legs in. If you can grab the outer edges of the feet, great. But if you can't, you can try for the inner heels, ankles, calves, or even the backs of the thighs. All of those work. Just pull back on whatever you have. Keep the knees opening wide. So the knees should be wider than the torso. And the feet are flexed, regardless of if you're hanging onto them or not. And the hips are down on the mat for this. And you can rock side to side. If you want to get one last leg opening, you can open up one leg, straightening it, or maybe you do both if they're open enough for that. Then back to happy baby. If you took one of those options, bending the legs, keeping the knees wide, hug the knees in toward the chest, close the eyes, take a big inhale in through the nose, hold it at the very top, sip in more air through the mouth, and exhale, Shavasana. Let it go. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms down by the sides. So you could put something underneath the knees if you want to add some space to the lower back. You could also come up to seated for a seated meditation if you'd rather do that instead of your Shavasana. The whole point in closing your practice is to find some stillness. Or if you have time to do both, do Shavasana and then stay for a seated meditation after. Staying right where you are. Bring your awareness to your breath. Begin to deepen it. If you're on your back in Shavasana, find some movement in the hands and the feet. And on your back, you can stretch the arms overhead. Start to walk the feet in, bending the legs, rolling over onto your right side. Using the left hand, press yourself up to an easy cross-legged seat, either seated on the mat or on a block, bolster. Feel free to prop the hips up if you're more comfortable that way. Coming into your seated meditation to close your practice. Maybe setting an intention for the rest of your day or evening. On an inhale, circle the arms all the way up overhead. On the exhale, hands come together down in front of the heart with that intention. Bowing the head, maintaining the lift of the chest as you take a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you.